A vast African kingdom thrives with its rich traditions, vibrant culture, and deep-rooted mystique. The people honor their ancestors, celebrate grand festivals, and live under the rule of a noble king. The royal palace stands as a symbol of power, with towering walls, golden ornaments, and halls filled with history. Zala, a young woman with a kind heart and noble spirit, walks through the palace gardens, unaware of the dark fate awaiting her. She is the only daughter of the late Queen Amina, whose wisdom and grace once guided the kingdom. After her mother's death, her father, King Obadel, remarried to Queen Nia, a woman whose beauty masks a heart filled with ambition and deceit. Though Zala has always shown her stepmother respect, she's often felt a coldness in Nia's gaze, as if she were nothing more than an obstacle in her plans. The kingdom's peace begins to waver as King Obadeli falls gravely ill. The once mighty ruler, known for his strength and wisdom, grows weaker with each passing day. Physicians and healers are summoned from across the land, but none can find a cure. His slow decline sends whispers through the palace, rumors of foul play, of unseen hands working to hasten his demise. Queen Nia, ever calculating, watches over her husband with a veil of false concern. In secret, she meets with her most trusted advisors, whispering of the future she envisions. She speaks of her son, a prince of her own blood, as the rightful heir. Though Zala is the firstborn and beloved by the people, Nia knows that power is not always claimed by birthright alone. She must ensure that Zala is removed from the picture, one way or another. Zala senses the growing tension in the palace. Servants speak in hushed tones, guards exchange uneasy glances, and once loyal nobles now shift their allegiances. Late one evening, while wandering through the dimly lit halls, she overhears a conversation between Queen Nia and a shadowy figure. Their voices are low, but the words she catches send a chill down her spine. Plans of betrayal, a future where she is no longer present, and a path that secures Nia's son's claim to the throne. Heart pounding, Zala retreats into the safety of her chambers, her mind racing with fear and uncertainty. She longs to speak to her father, but he is too weak to receive visitors. She considers seeking the counsel of the elders, but doubts cloud her judgment. What if they too have been swayed by Nia's influence? As the night stretches on, Zala lies awake, staring at the ceiling. The world she once knew is unraveling, and danger lurks in every shadow. She does not yet know the depth of her stepmother's treachery, nor the journey that awaits her. But deep within, a quiet resolve begins to form, one that will lead her down a path of survival, discovery, and an unexpected fate in the hands of royalty. The once great King Obadele, ruler of the vast and thriving kingdom, takes his final breath. His death shakes the palace, and grief spreads like wildfire among the people. His sudden passing is met with whispers. Some believe it was fate, while others suspect foul play. The most trusted healers in the land had failed to cure him, yet rumors swirl that his illness was no ordinary sickness. Some say his wine had been tainted, others that his meals had carried a slow-acting poison. But no one dares to accuse Queen Nia outright, for she stands draped in mourning attire, weeping before the court with a performance so flawless that even the most skeptical nobles hesitate to question her sincerity. The kingdom, now leaderless, looks toward the future. By birthright, Zala should ascend to the throne. However, Queen Nia, cunning and prepared, moves swiftly before Zala can stake her claim. With her soft-spoken yet deadly words, she poisons the minds of the court. She spreads whispers that the king's death was not natural, that a curse lingers within the palace. And who, she asks with well-timed sorrow, could the curse be but the firstborn daughter, the girl whose mother died young, the girl who had been closest to the king in his final days? The girl whose presence, as Nia implies with careful precision, may have sealed the king's fate. Zala, still reeling from the loss of her father, is unaware of the storm brewing around her. When she finally emerges from her mourning, she is met not with solace but with suspicion. The nobles who once greeted her with respect now avert their gazes. Servants whisper behind closed doors. Even those who had sworn loyalty to her father hesitate, unsure of where their allegiance should lie. Queen Nia ensures that Zala is left isolated, feeding fear into the kingdom like a slow-acting poison of her own. Despite her growing unease, Zala does not yet realize the full scope of the danger she is in. That is, until she is summoned to the throne room, where Queen Nia awaits with a decision already made. The Queen does not sentence Zala to death. That would raise too many questions. Instead, she crafts a more delicate punishment, one that appears noble on the surface, yet ensures Zala's removal from the kingdom permanently. She declares that Zala must leave, not as an exile, but as a bride. A royal marriage has been arranged, she claims, to secure peace with a distant land. The groom, a ruthless and battle-hardened warlord, feared for his cruelty and hunger for power. Zala protests, her voice trembling with anger and grief, but the Queen's decree is final. She is given no choice, no chance to fight for her throne. The court watches in silence, some with guilt, others with satisfaction. The princess who should have been queen is to be cast away, her fate sealed by a union meant to strip her of any power she might have held. The departure is swift. Within days, a caravan is prepared, carrying Zala away from the only home she has ever known. The journey is long and treacherous, stretching through endless plains and dense forests. With each passing mile, the weight of betrayal settles heavier in her chest. She knows she is being sent to a fate worse than exile. But she does not yet know that destiny has other plans for her, plans that will change the course of her life forever. The journey stretches endlessly before Zala, each passing day pulling her further from the home she once knew. The caravan moves slowly through the vast wilderness, its wheels creaking under the weight of supplies. Armed guards, hand-picked by Queen Nia, ensure that she does not escape. They do not speak to her unless necessary, treating her not as a princess but as a burden to be delivered. The dense jungle looms ahead, its towering trees casting long shadows over the narrow path. The air grows thick, filled with the distant cries of unseen creatures. Zala sits inside the carriage, staring blankly at the fabric draped around her, lost in the whirlwind of thoughts that refuse to settle. Her father's face, her mother's voice, the throne that was meant to be hers. All of it slips further away with each mile. The sudden halt of the caravan jolts her from her thoughts. The sound of raised voices cuts through the silence, followed by the unmistakable clash of steel. A scream pierces the air, and then chaos erupts. The guards rush to defend themselves, but they are outnumbered. Rough voices shout commands in a dialect unfamiliar to her, their words carrying the weight of violence. Bandits. The attack is swift and merciless. Armed men, their faces partially hidden by cloth, descend upon the caravan like shadows in the night. Blades flash in the dim light filtering through the trees. Horses rear in panic, their hooves thrashing against the ground. Zala presses herself against the carriage wall, heart hammering in her chest. She knows she cannot stay hidden for long. The door is wrenched open and rough hands grab at her, dragging her from the carriage. She stumbles onto the dirt path, her silk garments now streaked with dust. A man with a jagged scar running down his cheek grips her wrist tightly, his dark eyes scanning her with interest. She can see the greed in his gaze, the realization that she is no ordinary traveler. A royal captive would fetch a high price. Before he can speak, the sharp sound of hooves thundering against the earth interrupts the chaos. A new force emerges from the jungle, swift and precise. Arrows slice through the air, striking down the bandits before they can react. Warriors clad in fine armor charge forward, their blades cutting through the ambushes with practiced ease. Within moments, the tide shifts, and the remaining bandits scatter into the depths of the jungle, their cries fading into the night. Zala barely has time to process what has happened before a figure dismounts from a black steed. He moves with confidence, his presence commanding immediate respect from the warriors around him. His dark eyes sweep over the wreckage of the caravan before settling on her. He is young but carries himself like a man accustomed to authority. His garments, though practical for battle, bear the intricate embroidery of royalty. This is no ordinary soldier. She straightens herself despite the trembling in her limbs, meeting his gaze with cautious defiance. He studies her for a moment, intrigued by the fire in her eyes despite her obvious distress. He asks for her name, but she hesitates. Revealing her true identity could be dangerous. She gives him only her first name, withholding any mention of her royal lineage. Prince Khalid listens carefully, his sharp mind piecing together fragments of the scene before him. The elaborate carriage, the presence of armed escorts, the clear attempt to transport her somewhere against her will. This is no ordinary traveler. Yet he does not press her for the truth. Instead, he offers her safety. His kingdom, he explains, is not far from here. She may accompany them and rest before deciding her next steps. Zala hesitates. She has no reason to trust this man, no proof that his intentions are pure. But the alternative is unthinkable. Wandering alone in an unfamiliar land with no allies, no resources, and no way to fight back against those who seek to control her fate. With little choice, she accepts his offer. As they ride toward his kingdom, she remains silent, lost in thought. Her stepmother's scheme has failed in ways she never anticipated. If Queen Nia learns that she has not only survived, but has found sanctuary in a neighboring kingdom, what will she do? The thought sends a chill down Zala's spine. She is no longer a helpless pawn in Nia's game, but she is far from safe. The war for her future is just beginning. The journey to Prince Khalid's kingdom is long, but the moment they pass through the grand gates of the capital, Zala is struck by its beauty. The palace is a masterpiece of architecture, tall spires glistening under the sun, intricate carvings decorating its walls, and vast courtyards filled with fountains and lush gardens. Yet, for all its grandeur, it is also a place of unfamiliar faces, unspoken rules, and dangers hidden beneath layers of silk and smiles. As she steps into the halls of power, she feels the weight of judgment upon her. She is a stranger here, a mystery that no one fully trusts. The nobles whisper behind their jeweled hands, curious about the woman their prince has brought home. Some assume she is of noble birth. Others believe she is nothing more than a nameless wanderer saved from bandits. No one, not even Khalid, knows the full truth of her identity, and she intends to keep it that way for now. The most piercing gaze of all comes from Queen Jaha, the formidable matriarch of the palace. She is a woman of sharp intelligence, one who has seen countless political games unfold before her. She does not welcome Zala with open arms, but neither does she send her away. Instead, she allows her to stay under the condition that she proves herself useful. Days pass, and Zala struggles to find her place in this new world. She is no longer a princess, nor is she a servant. She is an outsider, caught between the lines of privilege and powerlessness. The palace is filled with rules she does not understand, customs she must learn, and expectations she cannot yet meet. Despite the challenges, she refuses to remain idle. She watches and listens, absorbing the intricate workings of court life. She observes how alliances are formed over shared meals, how conflicts are settled with carefully chosen words rather than swords. Slowly, she begins to understand that power here is not only wielded by kings and warriors, it is also held by those who know how to play the game. Through it all, Khalid remains a steady presence. At first, he is merely curious about the woman he rescued, but as time passes, their conversations grow deeper. He admires her sharp mind, her resilience in the face of uncertainty. She, in turn, begins to see beyond his title, recognizing the burden he carries as a prince destined to rule. In stolen moments beneath the palace's moonlit corridors, they speak of their fears, their pasts, and the futures they long for. But not everyone welcomes this growing closeness. Lady Sifu, a noblewoman of high status, has long harbored ambitions of becoming Khalid's wife. She watches Zala with quiet disdain, sensing the threat she poses. With each passing day, her jealousy festers, and she begins to weave a web of subtle manipulations, determined to turn the court against the outsider before she can claim a place at Khalid's side. Zala remains unaware of the storm brewing around her, too focused on learning about the kingdom she now calls home. She listens to the stories of the people, studies the traditions that shape their way of life. In doing so, she begins to transform, not into the helpless girl cast aside by her stepmother, but into a woman who understands the strength that lies in knowledge, patience, and strategy. What she does not yet realize is that her greatest challenge is yet to come. Her presence in the palace is not just a matter of curiosity, it is a disruption to the balance of power. And in a place where every smile hides a secret, she must be prepared to fight for her survival once more. Queen Nia's carefully constructed lies begin to unravel the moment she learns that Zala never reached the warlord. Panic grips her as reports trickle in, whispers of a mysterious woman residing in Prince Khalid's palace. The rumors alone are enough to make her blood run cold. If Zala lives, she remains a threat. A single word from her could expose Nia's treachery and jeopardize everything she has worked for. She cannot afford to wait. With cold precision, she summons a group of her most trusted spies and assassins. They are men who do not question orders, men who erase problems without leaving a trace. Their mission is simple: infiltrate Prince Khalid's palace and ensure Zala never has the chance to speak the truth. Meanwhile, within the walls of the neighboring kingdom, Zala is unaware of the danger creeping toward her. She has grown more comfortable in her new surroundings, though she remains cautious. Khalid's presence has become a source of quiet strength, their bond growing deeper with each passing day. But even in moments of warmth, she cannot ignore the shadow of her past. The attack comes under the cover of night. The palace is silent, the corridors dimly lit by flickering lanterns. Zala sleeps soundly in her chambers, unaware of the figures moving through the shadows. The assassins slip past the guards, their blades glinting in the darkness. A sudden noise, too quiet to wake the rest of the palace, but enough to stir Zala from her sleep. Instinct drives her to sit up, her heart pounding in the silence. Before she can react, the door bursts open. She barely has time to register the masked men lunging toward her when another presence enters the room. Prince Khalid, sword in hand. The battle is swift and brutal. Khalid and his guards fight fiercely, their movements precise and deadly. Zala, though unarmed, refuses to cower. She dodges an attacker's grasp, grabbing a heavy ornament from a nearby table and striking him across the head. Chaos fills the chamber, but within moments, the assassins are defeated, their bodies crumpled on the marble floor. As the dust settles, Khalid turns to Zala, his eyes dark with unspoken questions. This was no ordinary attack. The precision, the choice of target. Someone wanted her dead, someone powerful. He demands the truth. No more half answers, no more secrecy. Zala, shaken but resolute, finally reveals who she is. She speaks of her father, King Obadel, of her stepmother's deception, of how she was cast aside in a desperate bid for power. As her words fill the air, Khalid listens intently, piecing together the dangerous implications of what she has just confessed. If Zala is truly the rightful princess of her kingdom, it changes everything. Her existence alone threatens Queen Nia's stolen rule. But more than that, it risks drawing their two kingdoms into conflict. If Khalid shelters her, it could be seen as an act of war. A heavy silence falls between them. Khalid knows he must make a choice, and whatever decision he makes will alter both of their fates forever. Zala stands at the edge of the palace balcony, gazing over the vast kingdom that has given her refuge. The weight of her past, once a burden that dragged her into despair, now feels different. It no longer weakens her, it fuels her. She is no longer the girl who was cast aside, no longer the helpless princess betrayed by those she trusted. She is something else now, something stronger. The truth of her lineage has been revealed, and there is no turning back. Queen Nia has already tried to erase her once. Now, she will stop at nothing to silence her for good. If Zala does not act, she will remain a hunted fugitive, powerless against the forces that seek to destroy her. But if she fights, if she embraces the throne that was stolen from her, then she has a chance not just to survive, but to reclaim her birthright. She makes her choice. Khalid watches as determination replaces the uncertainty in her eyes. When she tells him she is ready to fight for her kingdom, he does not hesitate to offer his support. His advisors, seasoned in warfare and diplomacy, begin to train her in the ways of leadership. The days of quiet observation are over. Now, she must learn to command. Her training begins in the royal halls, where she studies maps of her homeland, analyzing its strengths and weaknesses. She listens to Khalid's generals as they discuss tactics, absorbing every lesson on strategy and negotiation. But she knows that words alone will not be enough to reclaim her throne. She must also learn how to defend herself. The training grounds become her new battlefield. She wakes before dawn, her muscles aching from drills she never imagined she would endure. Khalid teaches her how to wield a blade, how to move with precision and strike with purpose. At first, she struggles. Her arms are weak, her stance unsteady. But she refuses to quit. Day after day, she trains harder, until her body begins to remember the movements, until she no longer hesitates when steel clashes against steel. Yet, even as she grows stronger, doubt lingers in the shadows of her mind. She was never raised to rule. What if she is not worthy of the throne? What if she fails? One night, as she paces the halls, lost in her thoughts, Khalid finds her. He does not offer meaningless reassurances. Instead, he reminds her of everything she has already survived. He tells her that leadership is not about being fearless. It is about standing firm despite the fear. Something shifts within her. She is not just a lost princess anymore. She is a survivor, a warrior in her own right, and she is ready to claim the destiny that was stolen from her. With Khalid's promise of troops and resources, she begins to build alliances. Word spreads that the true heir to the kingdom lives, and that she is coming to reclaim what is hers. The journey back to her homeland feels surreal. For so long, Zala had been forced to abandon her past, to accept that she had no place in the kingdom that was once her home. But now, she returns not as an outcast, not as a forgotten princess, but as a force to be reckoned with. Dressed in the fine robes of a royal envoy, her identity concealed beneath layers of silk and a hood that shields her face, she enters the city under the protection of Khalid's trusted warriors. His presence at her side is a quiet but powerful statement. She is not alone in this battle. The streets are alive with whispers. Though no one recognizes her yet, the air is thick with the weight of uncertainty. Queen Nia's rule has been marked by fear and greed, and the people sense that change is near. Zala's return is carefully orchestrated. She does not storm the palace with an army. She does not need to. Instead, she presents herself before the royal council, the highest authority in the kingdom. These are the men and women who once stood by her father's side, who were deceived into believing that she was unfit to rule. She must make them see the truth. As she steps into the great hall, Queen Nia sits on the throne, dressed in opulence, surrounded by nobles who have profited from her rule. But when Zala removes her hood, gasps echo through the chamber. The dead princess stands before them, alive, strong, and unyielding. Nia's carefully crafted composure shatters. She tries to deny it, tries to weave more lies, but the council has already begun to murmur among themselves. Zala presents the truth, how her father's death was no accident, how Nia had her cast out under false pretenses, how she had sent assassins to silence her once and for all. Evidence, gathered by Khalid's spies, is laid bare before them. Cornered, Nia lashes out, her desperation turning to rage. But it is too late. The guards who once followed her orders now move against her. She is seized, her cries of protest ringing hollow in the vast hall. Justice is swift. For her crimes, treason, attempted murder, and the usurpation of the throne, Queen Nia is sentenced to imprisonment, her influence stripped away like a rotting veil. She screams as she is dragged away, her reign of deception finally at an end. As silence settles over the hall, all eyes turn to Zala. For the first time, she stands not as a victim, but as the rightful heir to the throne. She does not need to demand her place. The people see her strength, her resilience, and they kneel in recognition of their true queen. In the days that follow, Zala begins to rebuild. Her kingdom is wounded, but it is not beyond healing. With Khalid's support, she sets in motion the first steps of a reign built on justice and wisdom. One evening, as they stand on the palace balcony, Khalid turns to her with a look she has never seen before, not of pity, nor protection, but of admiration. He does not offer her a proposal born of obligation or political gain. Instead, he offers her a choice. To rule beside me, not because you need to, but because you want to. Zala, who has fought so hard for her freedom, finally understands what it means to choose her own destiny. And this time, she chooses love, not as a refuge, but as a partnership, forged in fire and trust. The morning of Zala's coronation is unlike any she has ever known. The palace, once shrouded in fear and deception, now hums with renewed energy. The people gather in the grand courtyard, their eyes filled with hope as they await the moment their true queen takes her place. Dressed in ceremonial robes, Zala steps forward, her heart steady. She is no longer the girl who was cast aside, nor the fugitive who fought for survival. She stands as a ruler who has faced betrayal, endured hardship, and emerged stronger. As the crown is placed upon her head, the weight of responsibility settles on her shoulders, not as a burden, but as a purpose she fully embraces. The kingdom watches, and for the first time in years, they see a leader who will rule with wisdom, not greed. The council that once doubted her now stands in full support. The people who feared Queen Nia's reign now cheer for Zala, their voices rising in unity. In the days that follow, she wastes no time in restoring what was lost. The corruption that festered under Nia's rule is dismantled. Justice is served, not through vengeance, but through fairness. Zala proves that strength is not only in battle, but in governance, in compassion, in the ability to bring people together. And at her side, as he has been through every challenge, is Khalid. Their union is not one of necessity, not a diplomatic arrangement crafted for political gain. It is a bond forged through trials, through trust, through the undeniable love that has grown between them. Their wedding is a celebration, not just of their love, but of the kingdom's rebirth. Two rulers, not one overshadowing the other, but standing as equals, guiding their people toward a future of peace. As Zala looks over the kingdom she now calls her own, she knows that her journey has not been easy. Betrayal led her to exile, but exile led her to strength. Strength led her to reclaim her destiny, and in doing so, she found not just a throne, but a love worth fighting for. A new dawn rises, and with it, a new era for the kingdom. Under Zala's rule, peace is not just a distant dream. It is a reality, built on the lessons of the past and the promise of the future.